The Enlightenment Chart, Mapping Your Path to Spiritual Awakening, by David Russo. Introduction, The Compass of the Soul. Have you ever paused long enough to wonder where you truly are in your inner life? Not in your career, not in your relationships, not in the roles you perform each day, but in your consciousness. Imagine your inner world as a vast and uncharted landscape. There are valleys of doubt and plateaus of comfort. There are mountains of insight you have glimpsed but not yet climbed. Rivers of emotion move quietly beneath the surface. And above it all stretches an open sky of awareness, steady, spacious, and unchanged. Most of us move through this terrain without a map. We react, adapt, strive, and endure, rarely stopping to ask, what is actually unfolding within me? The Enlightenment Chart is not a ladder to climb or a hierarchy to conquer. It is not a promise of perfection. It is a compass, a living framework designed to help you orient yourself within your own evolving awareness. It does not tell you who you should be. It invites you to notice who you are becoming. Spiritual awakening is deeply personal. No two paths unfold in identical ways. Throughout history, contemplative traditions, from the teachings of Gautama Buddha to the poetry of Rumi, have described stages of realization. Yet even they remind us that growth is rarely linear. Awakening spirals. It deepens, pauses, challenges, and renews. You may feel expansive one day and uncertain the next. This fluctuation is not failure. It is movement. The purpose of this chart is not to measure your worth or assign a spiritual rank. It offers perspective. It helps you recognize where your attention rests right now, whether you are reconnecting with your body, questioning your identity, releasing attachments, cultivating compassion, or integrating insight into daily life. Each chapter that follows represents a dimension of awareness. Together, they form a holistic vision of awakening, grounded, courageous, compassionate, embodied, and free. Transformation begins with willingness, the willingness to look inward with honesty and outward with kindness. As you move through these pages, you may encounter resistance. You may feel inspiration. You may feel both at once. Notice without judgment. Curiosity is more powerful than self-criticism. Awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about uncovering what has been quietly present beneath conditioning, fear, and distraction. Before continuing, pause, take a journal or a blank sheet of paper. At the top, write, "My current state of consciousness." Without overthinking, describe how you feel right now, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Are you searching? Restless? Skeptical? Hopeful? Tired? Open? There is no right answer. Honesty is the only requirement. Then write your intention for reading this book. Clarity, healing, courage, peace. Intention acts like a compass needle, subtly shaping what you notice and what you receive. As you explore the chapters ahead, from awakening the senses to transcendence and freedom, remember that this chart is not a strict sequence to complete. You may revisit earlier stages again and again. That revisiting is not regression. It is refinement. Each return reveals deeper layers. The Enlightenment Chart is a guide, not a guarantee. A compass, not a destination. The path will be uniquely yours. And as you begin, remember this: awakening is not about escaping your life. It is about inhabiting it fully, consciously, courageously, and with an open heart. You are not starting from nothing. You are remembering. Chapter 1. Awakening the Senses. Spiritual awakening does not begin in the clouds. It begins in the body. Before insight, before transcendence, before unity, there is simple awareness. The quiet realization that you are here, breathing, sensing, existing in this moment. Awakening the senses is the foundation of the Enlightenment Chart because it anchors your spiritual journey in direct experience rather than abstract thought. Many of us live primarily in our minds. We replay conversations, anticipate future scenarios, analyze, judge, and narrate our lives endlessly. Yet while the mind travels through past and future, the body remains faithfully present. It breathes now. It feels now. It responds now. To awaken spiritually is first to return to this immediacy. Awareness of the present moment has been emphasized in contemplative traditions for centuries. Teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh reminded us that the miracle is not walking on water, but walking on the earth in full awareness. When you reconnect with your senses, you step out of mental abstraction and into living reality. Begin with the breath. Notice it without trying to change it. Is it shallow or deep? Fast or slow? Cool as it enters, warm as it leaves? The breath is a bridge between the conscious and unconscious, the voluntary and involuntary. By simply observing it, you gently gather scattered attention and bring it home. Next, expand your awareness to the body. Feel the weight of your feet on the ground, the texture of clothing against your skin, the subtle hum of energy in your hands. During a walking meditation, notice the shift of balance from heel to toe. While eating, truly taste your food, its sweetness, bitterness, warmth, or spice. These simple acts are not trivial, they are portals. Presence deepens when you engage your senses fully. A powerful practice is sensory observation. Pause wherever you are and identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This exercise draws awareness out of rumination and into immediacy. It interrupts autopilot and reawakens aliveness. The key lesson of this chapter, simple yet profound. True awakening starts with noticing what is, without judgment. You are not trying to achieve a special state. You are not trying to silence every thought. You are simply observing. If discomfort arises, notice it. If joy rises, notice that too. Awareness itself is the transformation. As you cultivate this presence, you may discover something surprising. Beneath constant mental chatter lies a steady undercurrent of vitality. When you are fully attentive to your senses, even ordinary moments feel vivid. Colors appear brighter. Sounds feel richer. Time seems to soften. Life becomes less about rushing toward the next milestone and more about inhabiting the current step. This sensory awakening also builds resilience. When you are grounded in bodily awareness, emotions become experiences moving through you rather than identities you cling to. Anxiety feels like tightness in the chest. Sadness feels like heaviness behind the eyes. By sensing rather than labeling, you create space. And in that space, freedom begins. Take a moment now to reflect, where do I feel alive in my body today? Is it in your heartbeat after movement? The warmth in your palms? The expansion of your lungs? Let this question guide you back to yourself throughout the day. Each time you return to your senses, you strengthen your inner compass. Each breath becomes a reminder, awakening is not elsewhere. It is here, in the living immediacy of this moment. Chapter 2. Recognizing the self. As awareness deepens through the senses, a new question naturally arises: who is aware? Chapter 1 invited you into the present moment through the body. Chapter 2 turns inward toward identity itself. Recognizing the self is the beginning of inner clarity, the gentle but powerful distinction between who you truly are and the roles, thoughts, and stories you carry. Most of us move through life identified with the voice in our head. We believe we are our achievements, our failures, our preferences, our personality traits. I am anxious, I am successful, I am not enough. These statements feel solid and personal. Yet when observed closely, they reveal themselves as thoughts, experiences arising in awareness, not the awareness itself. Many spiritual teachers, including Eckhart Tolle, describe this realization as a turning point, the moment you recognize that you are not the constant stream of thinking, but the presence that witnesses it. Similarly, the ancient practice of self-inquiry popularized by Ramana Maharshi revolves around a single penetrating question: who am I? Not as a philosophical puzzle, but as a lived investigation. To recognize the self, begin by observing your thoughts as they arise. Sit quietly for a few minutes and watch the mind. Notice how one thought leads to another, planning, remembering, judging, imagining. Instead of engaging each one, simply label them gently, thinking. You may discover that thoughts appear spontaneously, without your deliberate choice. If you can observe a thought, it cannot be the entirety of who you are. Next, turn toward emotions. When anger, fear, or joy rises, ask, what does this feel like in my body? By sensing rather than narrating the emotion, you separate the experience from identity. You are not anger itself, you are the awareness within which anger moves. Journaling can deepen this process. Write freely in response to prompts such as, what roles do I play in my life? Who am I when those roles fall away? What beliefs about myself feel unquestioned? Often, you will find that much of your identity has been constructed through conditioning, family expectations, cultural norms, past experiences. Recognizing this is not about rejecting your personality. Your personality is a beautiful and unique expression, but it is not the totality of you. Beneath it lies something more spacious, steady, and unchanging. This deeper self is not an object you can see or define. It is the silent witness of all experiences. It remains present in childhood memories, in moments of success and confusion alike. While thoughts shift and moods fluctuate, awareness itself endures. The key lesson of this chapter is this: observing your thoughts and emotions creates inner freedom. The moment you realize you can witness your inner world, you loosen the grip of identification. Space opens between stimulus and response. In that space, choice becomes possible. Reflection invites integration. Which thoughts do I identify with, and which are passing clouds? Imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across a vast sky. Some are light and fleeting, others are dense and stormy. But the sky itself remains unchanged. You are not the clouds. You are the sky, open, aware, and capable of holding all experience without being defined by it. As you continue along the Enlightenment Chart, this recognition becomes foundational. When you know yourself as awareness rather than as every passing mental event, you step into a deeper stability. From here, transformation is no longer about fixing who you are, it is about remembering who you have always been. Chapter 3. Releasing attachments. As you begin to recognize that you are not your thoughts, roles, or passing emotions, another layer of awakening emerges: your attachments. Attachments are the invisible threads that bind your sense of security, identity, and happiness to external conditions. They are not inherently wrong. In fact, they are deeply human. Though when unconscious, they quietly limit spiritual growth. Attachment forms whenever we believe, I need this to be whole. It may be a possession, a relationship, a reputation, a belief, or even a particular self-image. The mind clings because it seeks stability. It fears loss. It resists change. Yet life itself is movement, constantly shifting, evolving, dissolving, and renewing. Spiritual traditions across time have spoken about the subtle weight of attachment. Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering, not because love or enjoyment are wrong, but because grasping creates tension against impermanence. When we demand that something remain unchanged, we create friction with reality. Releasing attachment does not mean rejecting the world. It does not require abandoning relationships or renouncing comfort. True release is internal. It is the shift from grasping to appreciating, from controlling to allowing. You can love deeply without clinging. You can enjoy fully without depending. Begin by noticing where fear rises around loss. Do you fear losing status, approval, financial security, a certain image of yourself? Gently ask, what would I feel if this changed or disappeared? Often beneath attachment lies fear. Fear of not being enough, not being safe, not being loved. A powerful exercise is gratitude practice. Each day, name 3 things you appreciate, and consciously acknowledge their impermanence. Instead of clinging, say internally, I am grateful for this moment, knowing it may change. Gratitude softens attachment because it shifts your focus from possession to presence. Another practice is detachment reflection. Choose one area of your life where you feel tightly bound. Visualize holding it in your hands. Now imagine gently opening your palms. You are not throwing it away, you are simply loosening your grip. Notice how your body responds. Is there resistance? Relief? Sadness? Freedom? Attachments also show up in limiting beliefs, stories about who you are or what you deserve. I must succeed to matter, I can't change, people always leave. These beliefs become psychological anchors. By questioning them, you begin to untie knots that have shaped your choices for years. The key lesson of this chapter is this: freedom is found not in rejection, but in conscious release. When you stop gripping life so tightly, energy flows more freely. You become adaptable, resilient, and open. You begin to trust that your wholeness does not depend on external stability. Releasing attachment does not numb you. It actually allows deeper love. When you no longer demand permanence, you can cherish what is here without fear clouding the experience. Relationships become partnerships rather than possessions. Success becomes expression rather than validation. Even loss becomes a teacher rather than an annihilation. Take a moment for reflection. What am I holding on to that is holding on to me? Sit quietly with that question. Notice what arises without judgment. Every attachment you gently loosen creates space. And in that space, a quieter truth becomes visible. You are already complete. Nothing external can add to or subtract from the essence of who you are. As you continue along the Enlightenment Chart, this conscious release becomes a gateway. With lighter hands and a steadier heart, you are ready to deepen into compassion, connection, and the expanding freedom of awakened living. Chapter 4: Cultivating Compassion. As attachments loosen and the grip of ego softens, the heart naturally begins to open. What emerges in that opening is compassion, not as a moral obligation, but as a direct experience of connection. Cultivating compassion is the bridge between inner awakening and shared humanity. It transforms spirituality from a private pursuit into a living relationship with the world. Compassion begins with awareness. When you recognize your own fears, wounds, and imperfections, you become less harsh, both with yourself and with others. You see that everyone is navigating and seeing struggles shaped by experiences you may never fully understand. This realization dissolves rigid judgment and makes space for empathy. The Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, often teaches that compassion is not a luxury, but a necessity for human survival. It is the foundation of genuine peace within individuals and between communities. Compassion does not mean agreeing with harmful behavior or abandoning discernment. It means seeing clearly while keeping the heart open. One of the most transformative practices for cultivating compassion is loving-kindness meditation. In this practice, you silently offer phrases of goodwill, first to yourself, then to loved ones, then to neutral individuals, and eventually even to those with whom you experience difficulty. Simple phrases such as, "May you be safe," "May you be peaceful," "May you be free from suffering," gradually recondition the heart. What once felt distant or separate begins to feel familiar and shared. Compassion also grows through conscious listening. In conversation, notice how often the impulse arises to interrupt, advise, or compare. Instead, practice presence. Listen not just to words, but to emotion and intention. Allow silence. When someone feels truly heard, healing often begins without a single solution offered. Acts of service, even small ones, anchor compassion in action. A kind message. A patient response. A moment of undivided attention. These gestures may appear simple, yet they ripple outward in ways you cannot measure. Compassion transforms daily interactions into sacred exchanges. Importantly, compassion must include yourself. Many people extend kindness outward while maintaining a harsh inner critic. True compassion is balanced. When you make a mistake, notice the tone of your self-talk. Would you speak that way to a friend? If not, gently soften it. Self-compassion builds resilience and prevents burnout, allowing you to give from fullness rather than depletion. The key lesson of this chapter is this: compassion deepens spiritual connection and dissolves separation. As awareness expands, the illusion of isolation weakens. You begin to sense that beneath surface differences, there is a shared longing for safety, love, and belonging. Recognizing this shared humanity shifts your perspective. Conflicts become opportunities for understanding. Differences become invitations to learn. Reflection invites embodiment. Who in my life needs my presence, not my advice? Consider someone who may simply need to be seen and heard. What would it mean to offer them your steady attention, free of correction or control? What would it mean to offer that same presence to yourself? As you continue along the Enlightenment Chart, compassion becomes both anchor and compass. It keeps awakening grounded in humility and directs growth toward unity rather than superiority. A truly awakened heart does not withdraw from the world, it embraces it, gently and courageously, again and again. Chapter 5: Harnessing Inner Energy. As compassion expands the heart, awareness begins to penetrate even deeper into the subtle currents that animate the body itself. Beyond muscles and bones, beyond thoughts and emotions, there is a field of aliveness that many traditions describe as life force, spirit, or inner energy. Harnessing this energy is not about control, but about alignment. When your energy flows freely, clarity sharpens, emotions stabilize, and spiritual insight integrates more naturally into daily life. Across cultures, This subtle vitality has been named and mapped in different ways. In Chinese philosophy, it is known as qi, the life force cultivated in practices like Tai Chi. In Indian spiritual traditions, it is described as prana, moving through energy centers called chakras, a system often associated with Kundalini teachings. Though the language differs, the underlying insight is similar. Human beings are energetic as well as physical. You may already sense this energy intuitively. Notice the warmth in your chest when you feel love, the tightening in your stomach when anxious, the lightness in your limbs after deep rest. These are not abstract ideas, they are lived experiences of energy shifting and flowing. To begin harnessing inner energy, return to the breath. Breath work is one of the most accessible tools for regulating and balancing your internal state. Try inhaling slowly for 4 counts, holding gently for 4, and exhaling for 6. Longer exhales signal safety to the nervous system, calming agitation and creating steadiness. With practice, breath becomes a conscious lever for energetic balance. Energy visualization can also be powerful. Sit comfortably and imagine a warm, gentle light at the center of your chest. With each inhale, see it growing brighter. With each exhale, imagine it expanding through your body. If you sense tension, perhaps in your shoulders or jaw, direct the light there. Visualization works because the mind and body are deeply interconnected. Attention influences sensation. Movement is equally essential. Practices such as yoga, stretching, or mindful walking awaken stagnant areas and restore circulation, physically and energetically. When you move solely and intentionally, you may notice subtle tingling or waves of sensation. Rather than dismissing these as imagination, observe them with curiosity. Energy often becomes perceptible when attention refines. Balancing energy also requires awareness of depletion. Overcommitment, emotional suppression, and constant stimulation can create energetic blockages. Signs may include chronic fatigue, irritability, or numbness. Instead of pushing through, pause. Ask, where am I leaking energy? Boundaries, rest, and honest expression are forms of energetic hygiene. The key lesson of this chapter is this: spiritual growth is supported by balanced energy flow. Insight alone is not enough. The body must be able to hold it. When energy is grounded and steady, you feel centered rather than scattered, vibrant rather than drained. Reflection deepens integration. Where do I feel tension or blockage in my body? Bring gentle awareness to that area. Breathe into it without trying to force change. Sometimes healing begins simply by acknowledging what has been ignored. As you continue along the Enlightenment Chart, remember that energy is not mystical in the sense of being unreachable. It is intimate. It moves with every breath, every emotion, every intention. When you learn to listen to it, you gain access to a subtle guidance system within. Aligned energy becomes momentum, carrying you forward with clarity, vitality, and quiet strength. Chapter 6: Facing Shadow and Fear. As your awareness strengthens and your energy becomes more balanced, an inevitable invitation appears to turn toward what you have avoided. Every spiritual journey eventually encounters the shadow, the hidden aspects of yourself that have been suppressed, denied, or rejected. Just as a shadow's length depends on the light that casts it, what appears darkest within you is often shaped by the awareness now shining upon it. Facing shadow and fear is not a deter from awakening, it is a crucial passage through it. The term shadow was popularized by the psychologist Carl Jung, who described it as the unconscious parts of the personality that the conscious ego refuses to acknowledge. These may include anger, jealousy, insecurity, shame, or even hidden strengths and desires you were taught were unacceptable. The shadow forms when you learn, often in childhood, that certain traits threaten belonging or approval. So you bury them, but what is buried does not disappear. It expresses itself indirectly through projection, overreaction, defensiveness, or self-sabotage. When you strongly judge a quality in someone else, it is often a clue. The intensity of your reaction may point toward a disowned part within yourself. Facing the shadow requires courage and compassion. Begin by noticing patterns that repeat in your life. Do you often feel unappreciated? Do similar conflicts arise in different relationships? Instead of blaming circumstances, gently ask, what part of me might be contributing to this pattern? This is not about self-condemnation, It is about self-understanding. Journaling can illuminate the hidden corners. Write freely in response to prompts such as, what traits in others trigger me most strongly? What emotions do I try hardest to avoid? What am I afraid others would see if I were fully honest? Another powerful exercise is dialogue with your inner critic. Imagine giving that voice a seat at the table. Let it speak and censor on paper. Then respond from your wiser, compassionate self. Often the inner critic is a distorted protector, attempting to shield you from rejection or failure. When you listen rather than silence it, its grip begins to loosen. Emotional release is equally important. Suppressed feelings remain stored in the body. Safe expression, through movement, tears, breathwork, or creative expression, allows stagnant energy to move. Shadow work is not purely intellectual, it is embodied. The key lesson of this chapter is this: transformation requires embracing darkness, not avoiding it. Spiritual bypassing, using spiritual ideas to escape unresolved pain, may provide temporary comfort but prevents true integration. Light becomes authentic only when it has passed through shadow. It is important to move gently. If trauma or overwhelming memories surface, seeking support from a qualified therapist or guide can provide safety and grounding. Facing shadow is brave work. It does not have to be done alone. Reflection invites honesty. What part of myself am I resisting or afraid to see? Sit quietly with that question. Notice any tightness, hesitation, or defensiveness. Those sensations are doorways. On the other side of fear often lies reclaimed energy, creativity, and strength. The qualities you reject may contain gifts: assertiveness hidden beneath anger, sensitivity beneath vulnerability, ambition beneath envy. As you continue along the Enlightenment Chart, shadow work deepens authenticity. You no longer need to present a polished version of yourself to feel worthy. Integration replaces fragmentation. Wholeness replaces denial. When you courageously face your inner darkness, you discover something profound. You are larger than any single emotion, flaw, or fear. And in that discovery, real freedom begins to take root. Chapter 7: Silence and Stillness. After turning inward to face shadow and fear, the next movement on the path is paradoxical: doing less. Not striving. Not analyzing. Not fixing. Simply becoming still. Silence and stillness are not empty spaces in the journey. They are the fertile ground from which profound insight arises. In a world saturated with noise, distraction, and constant stimulation, silence can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. The mind seeks occupation. It reaches for devices, conversations, plans, and entertainment. Yet beneath this surface activity lies a deeper current of awareness that becomes perceptible only when the noise subsides. Mystics and contemplatives across traditions have emphasized the transformative power of stillness. The 16th century mystic Teresa of Avila described prayer not merely as speaking to the divine, but as resting in quiet communion. Similarly, the philosopher Lazi taught that clarity emerges when the waters of the mind are allowed to settle. When agitation ceases, reflection becomes possible. Meditation is one of the most direct pathways into stillness. Begin simply, sit comfortably, spine upright yet relaxed. Bring attention to the natural rhythm of your breath. Thoughts will arise, they always do. Rather than fighting them, allow them to pass like leaves floating on a stream. Each time you notice you've drifted, gently return to the breath. The practice is not about achieving perfect silence, it is about returning, again and again. Walking meditation offers another doorway. Move slowly and deliberately. Feel each step connect with the earth. Notice the sway of your body, the sensation of air against your skin. Even in motion, stillness can exist, an inner quiet that remains steady regardless of external activity. For deeper immersion, periods of intentional silence, whether a few hours or a structured retreat, can reveal the layers of mental noise that normally go unnoticed. At first, restlessness may intensify. Emotions may surface. This is natural. Silence acts like a mirror, reflecting what is usually drowned out by distraction. The key lesson of this chapter is this: profound insight arises in the absence of distraction. When the mind quiets, subtle awareness sharpens. You may notice intuitive guidance, creative inspiration, or a sense of spacious peace that does not depend on circumstances. In stillness, identity softens. The boundary between observer and experience becomes less rigid. Stillness also recalibrates the nervous system. It teaches the body that safety does not require constant vigilance. Over time, regular practice cultivates equanimity, the ability to remain steady amid change. Reflection invites direct experience. What emerges when I am truly still? Do not rush to answer conceptually. Sit with the question. Perhaps you notice tension first, then breath, then a widening sense of presence. Perhaps you discover discomfort, or perhaps relief. Whatever arises, it is part of the unfolding. As you continue along the Enlightenment Chart, silence becomes both refuge and revelation. It is where integration happens. It is where wisdom matures. In the quiet, you realize that awareness itself is already whole, untouched by noise, unchanged by circumstance. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the depth of it. And in learning to rest there, you begin to experience a freedom that is steady, spacious, and profoundly alive. Chapter 8: Unity and Connection. As silence deepens and the sense of separate identity softens, a subtle shift begins to occur. What once felt like me observing the world starts to dissolve into something more fluid and interconnected. Unity is not an idea to believe in, it is an experience to awaken to. It is the recognition that life is not happening to you or around you, but through you. Throughout history, mystics and philosophers have described this realization of oneness. The 17th century philosopher Baruch Spinoza spoke of a single infinite substance expressing itself in countless forms. The poet Rumi wrote of dissolving into love until no boundary remained between lover and beloved. Though expressed differently, their insights point toward the same truth: separation is often more perception than reality. Begin by observing nature. Stand beneath the sky and feel the air entering your lungs. The oxygen you breathe was produced by trees. The water in your body once flowed through rivers and clouds. The atoms that compose you were forged in ancient stars. Science itself confirms what mystics intuited: you are not isolated from the cosmos, you are an expression of it. Connection extends beyond nature into human relationships. Every interaction is an exchange of energy, emotion, and meaning. When someone smiles, your nervous system responds. When someone suffers, empathy arises. These subtle exchanges reveal interdependence. No action exists in a vacuum. Each thought, word, and gesture ripples outward. Practices that cultivate unity can be simple yet profound. Spend time in nature without distraction. No phone, no agenda. Walk slowly and notice how your body moves in harmony with the environment. Engage in prayer or contemplation, not as a request for something external, but as a conversation with the greater whole. Reflect on how your daily choices, what you consume, how you speak, how you act, influence others in seen and unseen ways. Another powerful exercise is awareness of interdependence. When eating a meal, consider all who contributed to it: farmers, transporters, store workers, cooks. What appears as a simple plate of food is actually a network of relationships. This reflection gently dissolves the illusion of self-sufficiency. The key lesson of this chapter is this: recognizing unity dissolves egoic separateness. The ego thrives on comparison: better or worse, superior or inferior. Unity replaces comparison with belonging. You begin to see others not as competitors or obstacles, but as fellow expressions of the same life force. This realization does not erase individuality. Rather, it reframes it. Just as waves are distinct yet inseparable from the ocean, you are a unique expression of a shared existence. Your individuality becomes a contribution to the whole rather than a defense against it. Reflection anchors the insight. How am I connected to all that surrounds me? Sit with this question and allow answers to arise from experience rather than theory. Notice the sounds in the room, the breath in your lungs, the subtle awareness perceiving it all. Where exactly does you end and the world begin? As you continue along the Enlightenment Chart, unity transforms how you live. Compassion becomes natural. Responsibility becomes meaningful. Gratitude deepens. You recognize that every moment is participation in something vast and interconnected. In unity, loneliness softens, fear diminishes, and what remains is a quiet knowing you have never truly been separate at all. Chapter 9: Living Your Truth. Once you sense the interconnected flow of life, understanding alone isn't enough. The real challenge is embodying it. Awareness without action leaves insight dormant. Living your truth is the practice of translating inner awareness into daily choices, conversations, and behavior. It's the bridge between who you are internally and how you show up in the world. Spiritual growth is measured not in extraordinary solitary experiences, but in the sincerity of your presence in relationships, at work, and in fulfilling responsibilities. Authentic living means letting your core convictions guide your actions, even when doing so is uncomfortable, inconvenient, or misunderstood. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard emphasized the need to become a true self, consciously shaping your identity instead of adopting societal expectations. Similarly, Martin Luther King Jr. showed that deeply held beliefs call for courageous, tangible action. Truth is alive, it demands expression, not mere recognition. Begin by clarifying your essential values. What principles truly matter? Honesty, empathy, creativity, service? Write them down. Then observe your daily life. Where do your choices reflect these values, and where do they fall short? Living authentically requires honest reflection. You may notice times you stay silent to avoid conflict, linger in habits that no longer serve you, or chase goals that no longer resonate. Awareness sparks insight, but translating it into action takes courage. Authenticity often disrupts comfort, yet it replenishes energy and clarity. Before each decision, pause and ask, does this align with my deepest self? Even brief reflection can steer you back to integrity. Over time, mindful choices become instinctive, and ethical living flows naturally. As you recognize life's interconnectedness, your every word, act, and consumption carries conscious weight. Living your truth isn't about perfection, it's about intentionality. Tension is inevitable. Authenticity can unsettle those accustomed to your old patterns. Yet compromising your values carries a far greater cost. Key insight: spirituality expresses itself in action. Insight trapped in thought stagnates. When aligned with deeds, it transforms life. Reflection exercise: where am I choosing comfort or approval over authenticity? Notice how your body reacts. Tension often marks growth's edge. Integration is daily work. Ordinary conversations, choices, and routines become vehicles for conscious living. Authenticity does not imply rigidity. It demands humility, openness, and adaptability. Truth evolves, and as your inner and outer life converge, a quiet strength emerges, not rooted in approval, but in honesty and presence. Chapter 10: Transcendence and Freedom. After moving through awakening, feeling the body, recognizing the self, letting go, cultivating compassion, harnessing energy, confronting shadow, embracing stillness, experiencing unity, and living truthfully, a new horizon appears: transcendence. This is not a distant reward, it is the lived understanding that true freedom emerges from presence, not circumstances. Transcendence is liberation from habitual limits, stepping beyond rigid definitions of self, fear, and control. Life is fleeting, yet the consciousness witnessing it is vast, free, and constant. Thoughts, emotions, situations, even identities pass, but awareness remains unchanged. Different traditions describe it uniquely. Zen speaks of Satori, a direct insight into the present. Advaita Vedanta highlights the boundless self. Mystics like Meister Eckhart described union with the divine that dissolves separation. Modern teachers emphasize that liberation is always present, not reserved for years of practice. Practices here focus on surrender and embracing impermanence. Notice the transient nature of thoughts, emotions, and life itself. Detachment doesn't mean indifference, it means clarity. Surrender is trust, not resignation. Letting go of control allows life to flow. Joy naturally rises when resistance fades. Breath and awareness are anchors. Fully observe each moment, whether pleasant or challenging. Resistance breeds suffering, acceptance opens freedom. Tools like energy visualization, compassionate reflection, and mindful engagement integrate your whole being into spacious awareness. Key lesson: enlightenment is continuous. Freedom isn't a fixed state, it's a recurring realization. Each breath, thought, and interaction offers a chance to live liberated. Reflection exercise: how does freedom feel inside me today? Notice whether your inner space is expansive or constrained, calm or restless. Freedom is not abstract, it manifests as subtle aliveness in body, mind, and heart. Transcendence is both a culmination and a new beginning. Spiritual awakening is lifelong, marked by curiosity, renewal, and presence. You may revisit earlier stages, but freedom is always accessible here, in this moment, in this breath, in the act of living. Conclusion: mapping your continued journey. The Enlightenment Chart is not a destination, it's a compass, a flexible guide for exploration. The 10 chapters: awakening the senses, recognizing the self, releasing attachments, cultivating compassion, harnessing energy, facing shadow, embracing stillness, experiencing unity, living your truth, and touching transcendence, offer orientation. But the journey itself is unique, non-linear, and evolving. Growth is personal. Some stages will resonate deeply, others will need repeated attention. Progress is rarely a straight line. Pauses, cycles, and reflection are integral to unfolding. The chart reflects your present state, not a should of spiritual achievement. Integration is essential. Insights gain power only when lived. Compassion without action remains theory. Freedom without presence feels hollow. Bringing awareness, integrity, and intentionality into daily life turns understanding into lived wisdom. Create your personal enlightenment map. Document growth, challenges, and next steps, practices, intentions, reflections to continue forward. This map is fluid, personal, and evolving. Spiritual awakening is not about reaching a fixed endpoint. It is a continual exploration of presence, authenticity, compassion, and freedom. The chart guides, but your lived experience shapes the journey. Every breath, courageous act, and moment of care deepens alignment with your true self. Walk with curiosity. Walk with patience. Walk with openness. Each step, however small, nurtures awakening. Life itself becomes the living expression of freedom, unity, and insight.